Hey guys, Kaylin at Elvin Mill Farm. My worm bins that I ordered came last night, but I didn't open them till today. I'm going to set them up and show you guys how they're supposed to be set up and all that good stuff. But first I want to say I purchased these worm bins with a cost share program through Tygart Valley Conservation District, which is my local conservation district in West Virginia. It's part of their urban ag, their project they do for that kind of stuff. You can do rain barrels, raised beds. This year they added the composting, and I have rain barrels and I have raised beds, so I decided to try the composting. I actually ordered 2 kits because I want to run some tests, and my goal is not just to be feeding these guys kitchen scraps, because I have chickens and I have pigs, so I have ways to get rid of my kitchen scraps, but I have a lot of rabbit bedding, and I'd like to test if there's a way to speed the process up in these worm bins as opposed to just letting it happen naturally outside. So I jumped at the opportunity to get some cost share on these. Second thing I want to tell you is I ordered these on Amazon, and I am going to provide a link. I chose the Worm Factory 360, and a lot of people offer it. A lot of people are vendors, and I got on Amazon and looked to see, you know, who had the best price. And there's different types of kits you can get. Some are just very basic kits. Some of them come with a whole bunch of stuff. Based on the price, I went with the Squirm Firm on Amazon, and like I said, I am going to put a link down in the description for that. But the crazy thing is, I picked them because they were the cheapest, and my thought was I didn't need all the extra stuff. I wasn't going to order the bedding or anything like that. I was just going to order the bins themselves because I actually have the stuff to make the bedding. And so I picked them. Well, when I opened it up this morning, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it is actually the whole kit. Despite being substantially cheaper than a lot of the other companies, it's not just the bins like I thought it was. It is the kit, the tools, the bedding. It's everything but the worms. And I actually already have the worms, so that was no big deal. So like I said, I am going to put a link to them just because, like I said, I scrolled forever checking to see, comparing who was offering what, and thought I was getting, literally thought I was just getting the bins themselves, but I actually got the entire kit. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them out of the box. I already set up the first one just to get some ideas of how it goes, but I'm going to show you how everything comes so you know what you're dealing with. It came with these instructions, which was very good to have because I would have done it backwards. And then the thing telling you that if you have missing parts or if it's damaged, to contact the vendor. The first thing is the worm ladder. That's the lid, and the lid has, you know, some basic instructions and tips and all that on it. The next thing is the base. The kit I got has the base to let your moisture drip out so your bins don't stay too wet. And then this is where I started getting excited because I really thought it was just going to be the bin. And I open it up, and inside there's a little box, and you can see it says the Squirm Firm. And this is actually a thermometer to make sure that your bins are not getting too hot or too cold, and it's actually really adorable. Check this out. It has the temperatures that are best for the worms. Down here below 40, the worm is dead. Between 40 and 60, the worm is kind of slow. Between 60 and 80, the worm looks really productive and doing his thing. Above 80, he's starting to look slow again. And then above roughly 95, he's looking like he's about to die. So I thought it was actually really adorable. And like I said, I had no idea I was getting any of these extras with it, so I was totally thrilled. There's a little scraper tool so you can move around without getting your hands dirty. One tray, but then the rest of them are in here still, but they have the other good stuff in them. Okay, This is one of the coconut bricks. And this is why I didn't order the kit. All my seed pods that I start all my greenhouse plants in, that's exactly what these are made out of. And so I had some old spent ones that I crumbled up to make the bedding, and was just going to use that because I already had it and it was free and it was a way to recycle. Excuse me, but it came with the brick. It comes with a bag of pumice, a bag of rock dust, and then this is a little brown bag of shredded paper. Now, because I did 2 bins, this is enough. You're supposed to divide all this stuff in half to set up your first tray. So I'm actually not going to open these. I'm going to set them back in the box to use them later on. Oh, and here's a little scraper tool. And then I'm going to stack my extra trays up back here. Okay. So my worm bins are actually going to live in my greenhouse. I have a fan for the greenhouse, and it's automatic. It kicks on based on the thermostat, and it's set to kick on at 80. So these worms should never get hotter than, you know, what the temperature is. So I think they should be okay in here. And hello, Chuda. So I'm going to set them up in here. Go on, sit down. Okay, so first thing you do is take your base and set it down. Okay, lay down. Good girl. And then you need your worm ladder. This is so that if they fall out of the tray, they can climb back up into the tray. So that if they go through these holes, they have a way to get back up in there. And you set that down. And then your first one, I have newspaper somewhere. Your very first time setting it up, well, had newspaper somewhere. Well, I'm going to set it up without the newspaper. Well, I can use this. It said to set a piece of newspaper in the bottom. I'm assuming that's so that when you put the fresh bedding in before it really gets going good, the worms don't fall through. So I'm going to use a piece of cardboard that's a little damp because I had it for another part of this. And then the first step is you take your whole brick, but in my case I'm using the other half of my brick from the first kit, and some water. Hello, Easy. Go on. And you just set it down in the water. I used warm because I found with the coconut stuff that it absorbs the moisture faster if the water is warm. And I probably have too much water in here, but I'm not real sure. The first half of the brick, I mean, it just sucked it up fast and came apart. And you want this stuff to be damp, it said, but not wet. Okay, I may have had exactly enough. And I could use my tool, but I don't care to get my hands dirty, so I'm just going to use my hands and crumble it apart. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dump that in there just so I have more room for the mixing. So that's half of one of the bricks. If you only do one kit, it says to set the unused half aside for later in case you start another tray. But like I said, I used the first brick, the other half of it. And then this is the pumice stone from the first kit. I used half of it in that one. I'm going to add the rest of the half to this. And it said 1 to 2 tablespoons of the rock dust. I don't have a measure out here of any type, so I'm just going to eyeball it. And then it was half of the shredded paper. Okay, and then just mix that in. Now, the instructions on the thing seem to assume you'll get your kits first and then your worms, which is what I would recommend to do if you don't have a way to dig your own. I was actually going to order some because I wanted a specific kind, and then I started thinking that the whole purpose of these, for me, is to break down my rabbit bedding quicker. And so what I actually did was I put my kids to work digging out from under the rabbit hutches so that these worms are actually already used to composting actual rabbit manure. So I felt like they probably stood a better chance. And you can tell when you dig them that there's actually a bunch of different types of the worms in here. Like I could see the red wigglers. I could see what I assume are what they call the blue wigglers. And then I think there were some like night crawlers and stuff. I'm not going to pick out. I just went with all of them. And the base I made for this is actually some of my old seed pods that we had crumbled up, and then we added some of the composted mess from under the rabbit hutches into it because I figured it already has the good bacteria to start it. And the instructions do say when you start these to get 1 to 2 cups of your own garden soil to put in it to get the microbes and all that stuff going. I'm going to use this, and I'm actually going to add to both. This one back here has been sitting for a little bit, and it is at 72 degrees right now, so that should be pretty good. All I'm going to do now is divide these. If I had gotten worms and ordered them, you know, I would go out to the garden, I would get a couple cups of the bedding or the dirt and add to this, but I've already got it. And so I'm just going to scoop these guys out and divide this bin in half, and you can actually see some of them already in there. These guys have been in my kitchen for about 4 days now. They didn't escape though because I left the lid off so that the light overhead would kind of keep them in. Oh, and it did say your drain down here, to go ahead and set it on open. You can put something underneath it to catch. I'm in the greenhouse and I can use that extra moisture down the ground anyways to keep it humid in here, so I'm not going to do anything about it. And so what I've read online says that when your worms do this, it could be because they're too cold, which shouldn't have been a possibility in the house because it should be over 70 in the house, but I'm going to go ahead and get them put in. I've kept worm bins before, but not like this. They've always just been, well, this was actually an old worm bin we used to do, and I kept it under, we had a futon, and I kept it under the futon in the game room, but haven't used it really since we've lived here, but it worked for gathering them up. So that is all the worms in. I'm going to spread it out a little bit. And then it said to leave them alone for 2 to 3 days to get situated, and to leave a light on so that if any of them tried to escape, they tend to stay in it. I'm going to leave the overhead lights on in the greenhouse for the next 2 nights just to see, you know, if that'll help keep them in. Then the other thing was to add, we don't keep much newspaper, but it said to add wet stack of newspaper on top. I'm going to add that to this one, and then I'll have to go find another piece for the other one. But that's to help, you know, get them to stay in there where you want them. But basically that's it. That gets them started. And then when you're ready to, when these are full and you're ready to start a new tray, well, everything, well, okay. So after a day or 2, it says to take this out and just leave it the straight, you know, composted bedding and stuff in there. So after that, when this is full and I'm ready to add the next, it looks like you literally just set that on, and then they will work their way up into the next bin, and this will be your feeding bin where you will start adding the food, and they'll go up and do everything. You can get bugs in these, and each type of bug you're kind of going to have to Google and see what causes an infestation of those, whether they're bad, whether they're good, whether you want to leave them or whatever. But this is just basically how to set them up. But so these guys should be good to go. I'm putting this back on. I will go get one for the other bin after I finish this video. But like I said, I was really impressed because for the price, I honest to goodness thought all I was getting was the plastic worm bin itself. I did not expect to get any of the minerals, the pumice, the bedding. I certainly didn't expect to get the cute little thermometer, anything like that. And I was okay with the price I was getting at what I thought was just the worm bins. So to get the extra stuff was pretty cool. And like I said, I will certainly add a link to them because based on that, I would highly recommend them. I mean, they managed to do it at a really good price and throw in everything that I needed to start. Like, anybody could use this kit to get started. You don't have to have, like I have access to the seed pods and everything. You wouldn't have to have that. It was literally everything to get it started. But super easy, and certainly a good way to use up your kitchen scraps if you don't have critters like I do that have them. And you know, the compost out of it is excellent for your plants and provides a lot of nutrients for them. So I would totally recommend it, especially, you know, if you're into that kind of green living and everything. But I'm pleased and super happy to see how these turn out. And in a couple months, because it says it takes about 30 days, I think, for each tray, depending on how quick they're working, but about 30 days or so for each tray to start to be good to go to move to the next one. So maybe in 60 days, I'll do an updated video to show you guys how they're doing, show you if I killed them. And actually, I'm going to do them two different ways. That's why I got the two. One bin, I'm going to feed kitchen scraps like a normal person would. And then the other bin, I'm going to feed handfuls of dirty rabbit bedding to see if they're capable of processing that in here without it driving them out of the bin or without it killing them. So one is my control and one is my test bin. And if I'm lucky, it'll go much faster than having to have a giant pile outside of rabbit poop and wait on it to break down. If this lets me work through my rabbit poop out of my indoor trays much faster, then I will definitely probably grab a few more of these just to get it going faster. But I'll check back with you guys in a couple months and let you see if I'm failing, if I'm winning, how it's going, things I ran into that sucked, things that were easy. But that's it. So thanks guys for stopping by, and I hope you guys go get your own worm bins. We could all do some recycling, help out with our portion of the earth.